In this brief video, I'll provide an overview of the purpose of the immersion experience associated with Assessment Task 2 and detail the steps you'll need to undertake to organise and engage in this experience. Why do I need to complete an immersion experience? One of the aims this unit sets out to achieve is to stimulate your thinking about why, what and how we go about the practice we call education in the 21st century. In the very first topic of the unit, we challenge you to think about the term education and encourage you to widen the lens of the concepts, teaching and learning, and consider sites of education beyond schools. As commencing teacher education students, we also believe there is much to be gained by experiencing a range of education sites and observing practices that unfold there through educators' eyes. The experience also informs the completion of the report you are required to submit for Assessment Task 2, which is worth 30% of your overall grade in the unit. Where can I undertake my immersion experience? Thinking about education as a broad church of practices opens up a number of possibilities for your immersion experience. You can consider institutional sites such as preschools, long daycare centres, primary schools, high schools, different types of schools like Montessori schools, Steiner schools, TAFEs, community colleges and universities. Or you can consider sites where less formal educative practices are undertaken, such as local sporting clubs, to observe and assist with those practices. Other venues might include dance studios, gymnastics clubs, tennis clubs, soccer clubs, football training, dance lessons. Community and church groups and other associations also offer educative experiences, including things like Scouts and Sunday School. Many cultural venues, including museums, art galleries and theatres, also offer education programs. The list is long and open to your own interpretation and interest. The only criteria we have is that you must be able to observe educational practices being enacted or teaching and learning being enacted over an extended period of time, a minimum of 5 hours, in order to complete your report. How do I set up my immersion experience? In order to set up this experience in a timely fashion, it will be important for you to make this task a top priority in the first few weeks of this session. To achieve this with a minimum of fuss, we ask you to follow 8 simple steps. Step 1. Familiarise yourself with the Assessment Task 2 requirements. Download and read what's required on the report and be sure to read the relevant sections of your textbook to make sure that you have a clear understanding of the terms and concepts used in the report and in the marking criteria. This information may guide you to or from particular sites. We have scheduled these visits at the end of Module 1 in the hope that you will have consolidated these understandings by then. Step 2. Think about, research and identify a site you would like to visit. We encourage you to think deeply about the range of education sites available within your community. Try to identify a site that interests you or that you have had little or no experience of. If you do attend a school, try to identify education practices, teaching and learning, things like perhaps reading recovery that you may not have observed or been a part of before. Last session, students already working in sites where educative practices take place, e.g. a school, asked if they could complete their experience at their current workplace. You can do that if that's the only way to complete the task. However, those that did found it difficult to step away from their current role to view the practices objectively. If you are in this situation, I suggest you discuss your placement with your tutor. Step 3. Approach the site to seek interest and clarify requirements. Consider the most appropriate way to do this. Not all sites will be contactable via email or telephone. Sometimes a connection through a personal contact is most effective. First impressions last. Be sure to identify who you are, what you are required to do and why. The letter of introduction will provide some assistance here. Approach the site with the greatest respect and please do not say, I have to do this as part of my university course. To avoid disappointment, try to make your visits as attractive as possible by highlighting the mutually beneficial outcomes, an extra pair of hands on deck. Make sure you ask about specific requirements, e.g., child protection documentation. Whether child protection documentation is required, there may be special clothing that you need to wear. You must be aware that you cannot visit or approach a site where children and young people are present without a current and valid child protection document. Step 4. Register your child protection documents with the SCU Professional Experience Office. This is a critically important step. If you've not already done so, please access the Child Protection Documents link on this learning site and apply for and or register your state-specific child protection documentation. Not having this completed and registered prior to scheduling your visit will effectively lock you out of a number of sites. If you can't and don't get this documentation in time, then you will need to be looking at sites of adult learning. Again, if you're in any doubts about this as that time gets closer, you should talk to your tutor about the possibilities. Step 5. Once you've decided on the site, establish a contact and confirm the visit dates. The contact is likely to be this, if it's a school placement coordinator, professional experience coordinator, maybe it will be the principal. If it's a community club, then it will probably be the club manager. This person will be your go-to person while you're on the site, and you should notify them if any changes to the agreed arrangements occur. It will be important for you to prioritise your visits, as your host site will no doubt be planning activities knowing that you'll be there to assist. Step 6. Download and complete the required immersion documents. You will need to fill in the blanks within the letter of introduction and then print and provide a copy for your site on arrival of your first visit, or you might want to email that to the site earlier. But please don't make the letter of introduction your first approach to the school. This letter should not be sent to the site without having worked through steps 1 to 5. You will also need to provide a printed copy of the timesheet to record your visit dates and times and a brief description of the practices observed. You must complete a minimum of 5 hours in one site. However, you're free to negotiate additional hours and or approach more than one site to visit. Only one report and one timesheet needs to be submitted, and the 5 hours don't have to be completed in one block. You might visit somewhere for 2 hours in the mornings across a couple of days. Step 7. Attend the site and observe and or engage in the educational practices. This is the fun bit. Remember to keep referring back to the report to ensure you're capturing and thinking about the type of evidence required to complete the report. This will be a topic of conversation in your tutorials throughout Module 1. Make sure you've got a clear idea in your mind before you commence your immersion experience. You will see and hopefully be engaged in a number of practices, and it's unlikely that you'll be able to write about all of them in your report. So we're asking you to choose 1 or 2 significant practices to write up in your report. Not absolutely everything that happened in those 5 hours will be captured there. Step 8. Complete and submit the immersion report and your signed timesheet on or before the due date. Finally, please enjoy this immersion experience. Be adventurous, be respectful, and above all, be mindful of the privileged opportunity you have to engage in the world and work of education.